So I have been waiting for a really long time to do a video exploring some of my favorite Daedric princes. And because Elder Scrolls Online is coming out with a brand new chapter in just a few days, and that chapter is going to take place in Oblivion and is going to be focusing on one of my favorite Daedric princes of all time, I figured now would be the perfect opportunity. So in this video, we are going to discuss some of the lore behind Mehrunes Dagon and why I think he is one of the most interesting Daedric princes in the entire Elder Scrolls. Mehrunes Dagon is the Daedric prince of ambition, change, energy, destruction, and revolution. And I think for this reason, a lot of people look at him and they think that he is an evil Daedra. But I don't think it's that simple. I think that Daedra are a lot more complicated than just good or evil. So in this video, I'm going to explore some of the lore behind him and explain why, in my personal opinion, I don't think that he is an evil Daedra. Mehrunes Dagon exists in a plane of oblivion known as the Deadlands, and I understand people looking at the Deadlands and thinking, this place is pure evil. Because it does look evil. If you're looking around, the landscape is just these old decaying towers that jut out of pools of lava that scatter the earth. And there's a few little islands that are sticking out of the lava pools, but the islands are inhabited by scamps, spider Daedra, storm Atronachs, flame Atronachs, Zivali, Daedroth, and other really nasty things you do not want to encounter if you are still immortal. So I understand people making the comparison between this place and our Christian idea of hell, but I think it was inspired less by that and more inspired by the transformative power of volcanoes. I think lava is a metaphor for Mehrunes Dagon's ability to create power, energy, and change. If you think about what the most stable of elements are, most people would consider that to be rock. However, lava shows that even the most stable of elements can give way and become explosive epicenters for energy and change and revolution. And that's exactly what Mehrunes Dagon represents. And even though that lava is fluid and it's full of energy and full of destructive chaos, it eventually will stop, it will cool, and it will become rock once again. And I think that's exactly what Mehrunes Dagon is. It's that cycle of explosive energy, of change, of chaos, and then cooling down and starting all over. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the idea of good and evil as it pertains to the Daedra. And I don't really understand why people like to even make this argument, because it's not as if the Daedra exist in the same realm that we do. The Daedra are immortal beings that don't even live in the same plane of existence as we do. So I don't understand the idea that we should try to hold them to our standards of what we view as evil. So I was trying to come up with a utilitarian definition of what we could consider to be evil. And this was the definition that I came up with. And this is just my definition. And I also think that this definition applies more to the Elder Scrolls world than it would to our world that we live in right now, just as a disclaimer. But here was my definition. Evil is anything that interferes with the interests of mortals to survive in the world. So we would consider things like murder to be evil or war to be evil, just as a rule of thumb. Why would Daedra care about that? Why would Daedra give any ounce of energy to care about whether or not we survive? When you're going out, do you check under your shoes to make sure that you don't accidentally step on an ant? No. I mean, probably not. I would assume not. At least not when you're playing Elder Scrolls. Maybe you do in your daily life, but like when you're playing video games, do you care about accidentally stabbing a deer when you're out in the woods and you're running around being an idiot? No, you don't care about those things. So why would a Daedra care about whether or not you are able to survive in the world? They wouldn't. They have their own goals, they have their own things that they are trying to accomplish, and whether or not they match with humanity's interests isn't really a priority for them. Generally speaking, mortals seem to thrive best when we are living in stable environments, and because Mehrunes Dagon is pretty much the opposite of stability, I think most people would consider him to be evil. But I don't think that this is necessarily a productive conversation to have, because whether or not a Daedra, immortal entity, is good or evil, I mean, I don't think that that's relevant. I think Mehrunes Dagon serves a very important utilitarian purpose in the survival of humanity, and I think without him, humanity would be lost. So Dagon embodies ambition, change, and revolution, and I think on its own, most people would generally agree that these are really important to the survival of humanity. However, I think when most people think about Mehrunes Dagon, they're not thinking about overthrowing unjust rulers, they're thinking about the fire and brimstone. And I understand this. I mean, the Oblivion crisis killed how many people? Anytime Mehrunes Dagon comes down to Nirn, things don't tend to go over super well for the mortals that live there. But I do think that the idea of Mehrunes Dagon and what he represents is essential to the survival of mortals everywhere. If there is a tyrant that is bleeding its civilians dry, or a nation that is colonizing and enslaving another, I think it's completely justified for those people to want to use Mehrunes Dagon to be able to rise up and overthrow those unjust rulers. And that's exactly why Mehrunes Dagon exists. He is there to give hope to the people who are at the bottom, who are being oppressed, who are being discriminated against, and so that they can rise up and overthrow those rulers and become more powerful. Now, yes, Mehrunes Dagon is never going to stop. He is always going to flip the tables and turn whoever is on the top onto the bottom. Yeah, that's kind of his thing. But I think that's why Mehrunes Dagon is not always a force that is needed. But when he is needed, he is absolutely essential. And if it weren't for Mehrunes Dagon, these people would have nothing. They would never be able to overthrow these people. And these people who are at the top, who are able to exert all of their power, wealth, and influence on these people at the bottom, they would have nothing to fear, and that is a truly dangerous idea. And I won't pretend that Mehrunes Dagon is going to be nice about it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he, out of the kindness of his heart, has decided that he is going to help the common folk and help them rise up and overthrow their oppressive rulers. I'm not going to pretend that there won't be casualties, that it won't be violent and bloody and brutal. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that there won't be a scar on Tamriel for hundreds of years to come. But I do think that sometimes it is essential to do that. And I think without Mehrunes Dagon's influence, these people would have no hope and their rulers would have nothing to fear. And that is truly dangerous. We're about to get really deep into some Elder Scrolls lore, so just allow me to nerd out for a second, okay? All right. So Mehrunes Dagon was created by the Magna-Gi back in the Dawn era, and the Magna-Gi were some of the original spirits of magic created by Magnus. Make sense? Okay. So, back in this time, the Dreg ruled over the world with iron talons. I say iron talons because they have talons instead of hands. So that's what they look. Okay. Anyway, so they ruled over the world with iron talons, and it was a bad time to be alive. Like, if you know anything about Elder Scrolls lore, you know that the Merithic era was bad. Well, this makes the Merithic era look like a pile of, like, golden retrievers were the overseers of the world. No, this was a bad time to be alive if you were anything but probably Molag Bal. So the Magna-Gi created Mehrunes Dagon in order to be the embodiment of hope, to give breath to a new era, because they wanted to believe that the world did not have to be like this. So they put all of their hope into this new creation that they had made. And unfortunately, he came out a little bit wonky. He was a lot more destructive than they had intended to be, but he did serve a purpose because he represented change and he represented the potential for things to not always be as dark and as bleak. And even though he's a lot more brutal, a lot more violent than it was intended, I think that is extremely important. And at the end of the day, that is what hope is. It's the idea that things don't have to stay the same all the time. That's what Mehrunes Dagon is, and that's why I love him so much. In summary, I love Mehrunes Dagon not as a person, but as an idea. I think the ideas of Mehrunes Dagon, which is the idea that things can change, no matter how stagnant they may seem, no matter how bleak or hopeless they might appear to be, things can always change. That's what Mehrunes Dagon is. And I think that's a really, really hopeful concept. I think that's something that humans and mortals really need to be able to continue to survive in a world that oftentimes is very bleak and very hopeless. So I don't think he is necessarily evil, but I don't see him as good either. I see him as more a universal truth about the human condition and about what it is to survive in the world. And I think that's maybe not good, but I think it's important. I think it's necessary, and I think it's a really interesting concept, and that's one of the things I love about the Elder Scrolls. Even if things aren't always black and white, good or evil, they still present some really interesting ideas that I love to think about. So that's why I'm so interested in lore, and that's why I wanted to make this video. Also, I'm clearly very, very excited for the Elder Scrolls expansion, which is Blackwood. It comes out in a few days. If you guys are also excited for that, please let me know in a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Also, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you especially for everyone who stuck around to the end while I got a little bit esoteric with the really deep Elder Scrolls lore. It's something that I'm really interested in, so if you like seeing lore videos, definitely let me know in the comments below. And if you really want to see more lore videos, then definitely give this video a thumbs up that, and also subscribe to this channel so you get notified every single time I post and every single time I stream. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Thank you to all of my subscribers, and thank you especially to all of the people who are supporting me over on my Patreon. You guys are wonderful. I appreciate you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye everyone!